Today we're going to talk about a 14-year-old boy who brutally stabbed to death another classmate. But before we get started, welcome to True Crime with Maneater. If you love all things true crime, including missing person cases and cold cases, and just the strange happenings of the world, you've come to the right place. Be sure to subscribe and turn on alerts so you never miss a video upload. Let's get started. 13-year-old Tristyn Bailey was by all accounts your normal 13-year-old. She loved cheerleading and devoted so much time to practicing, even though sometimes that got in the way with her schoolwork. Came from a loving family and really had just everything going for her. She was kind, she was smart, she was beautiful, and a great friend and sibling. In May 2021, Mother's Day morning started off relatively normal at the Bailey household. That is until they realized that Tristyn, their daughter, wasn't in her room. First, her family started looking around the house, checking for her, and walking around the neighborhood, thinking maybe she had gotten up early. When they couldn't find their 13-year-old daughter, they immediately called the police. This quickly became a missing persons case because of how old she was and the fact that she had disappeared from her home. The night before, Tristyn was seen at home at around 12 a.m. Her sister had actually walked in on Tristyn on the phone FaceTiming with a man. She didn't know who the man was, but it wasn't uncommon for Tristyn to be FaceTiming her friends. So she snuck out of the room and left her be. And that was the last time anybody saw her alive. And when police arrived, they actually took this relatively serious. This was a 13-year-old girl, and her last known whereabouts was in her bedroom. I'm sure detectives were concerned that maybe she had been abducted from her bedroom or something along those lines. Police would go around the tight-knit neighborhood asking people for surveillance footage from their home cameras. And that's when they found two younger-looking kids walking through the neighborhood early that morning. They believed it was Tristyn Bailey, but they weren't sure who the other person was. Of course, the surveillance footage led them to two teens who actually said that they were with Tristyn Bailey that night. Tristyn had actually been sneaking out of her house, unbeknownst to her parents, and she would walk over to her friend's house. And she did that evening. Except that night was a little bit different because Aiden Fucci was actually there when Tristyn arrived at her friend's house. The three friends smoked weed together before parting ways. Because of the surveillance footage we do have, we see that Aiden and Tristyn were actually walking together after they left their friend's house that night. All three kids actually lived really closely in the neighborhoods. Aiden's walk home was probably about a mile or a mile and a half from his friend's house that he was leaving, which would probably take him around 30 minutes. Upon questioning, he told detectives it took him 2 hours to get home. This obviously set off alarm bells. He never denied that he was walking home with Tristyn Bailey. Aiden Fucci's story continued to change upon questioning. He said as they were walking home, Tristyn Bailey had been talking to a 21-year-old drug dealer, and she was going to go meet up with him. Detectives obviously got in contact with this 21-year-old man and quickly ruled him out as a suspect. So Aiden Fucci changed his story again. This time, he said when they were walking home, she came onto him and wanted to kiss him. He was very upset by this and pushed her. She fell, hit her head on a rock, and just laid there. So he left, and he didn't know if she was okay or not, but he assumed she would be fine. This again wasn't adding up. And in the surveillance video, police not only see the two walking together, they then see a young man running later in the evening past that same place they had been walking with his Nikes in his hand. And when police ask for the surveillance footage at the Fucci home, they were shocked by what they saw. In this video, you can very clearly see Aiden, the boy who we saw running in the earlier video, carrying his Nike shoes as he reaches his parents' home. And that wouldn't be the only story that these home surveillance videos catch. We even see his mother very adamantly scrubbing a pair of pants in the sink. And when police brought Aiden's parents into the room, they sat down with him and began to talk quietly. After his arrest, Aiden Fucci was put in an interview room, and they allowed him to meet with his parents. Of course, they kept audio and video rolling during the meeting. Aiden's parents told him to remain silent until his attorney arrived, and they also told him that the room was being recorded. So what happens next is quite interesting. Is she good? No, she's dead, his mother replied. That's why this is very important. It's all on you right now. How is it my problem? Fucci asked. His parents told him he was the last person to have seen Bailey, and he said he understood that this was serious. His father then asked him if he had any cuts or scrapes. No, sir, he responded. He then went on to tell his parents that Bailey probably got picked up by her drug dealer and that she was not going home, and that she was probably going to go find somebody to stay with instead. He also insisted to his parents that after pushing her down, he just continued walking. Did you kiss or do anything with them? Jason Fucci asked his son. Aiden confessed that he actually kissed Bailey, but denied going any further. So your DNA is going to be on her. Aiden Fucci asked his son. Aiden didn't respond. He also didn't respond when his father told him that people were suggesting on social media that he was the killer. He then told his parents the same lie that he had told police, that Bailey tried to grab him, that she yelled out his name and he pushed her, and he told Bailey to F off. Then he asserted that he walked away. So a detective then enters the room and asks for consensual fingernail scraping. Both parents obviously said they would want to wait for an attorney to arrive, and then when the detective left the room, both parents told the defendant that police would be looking underneath his nails and examining his body for marks. Crystal Smith then went on to ask her son what he was wearing. There would be nothing on the clothes, right? His father asked him. No, sir, Aiden said. Aiden said that he was wearing blue jeans, and then his mother asked if anything was going to be on them. Aiden replied, I don't think so, why? And then Crystal did something that shocked everyone. In a low whisper, she said, Lud, to her son. When we looked at the camera, you were wearing khakis, she said, right? Yes, Aiden said. But the police weren't buying it. It seemed that Crystal had been attempting to convince Aiden he was wearing khaki pants instead of the blue jeans that we can see in the video she's scrubbing. Both parents then advised Aiden to find his story and stick to it. And they even went as far as telling Aiden how an autopsy would be conducted and what it might discover. He then said to his parents, I know I'm staying here. And after that, Jason and his son began typing messages to one another on a phone and passing it back and forth, obviously as a means to communicate in order to not be heard by police. Upon hearing this, police were stunned. They went to Aiden's house and confiscated the clothing his mother had been hand washing. And what they found shocked them. Those pants that she had been scrubbing in the sink so adamantly had blood on them. And because in the interview room, as we just heard, she was worried about DNA evidence, the police knew that Aiden Fucci had done something terrible to Tristyn Bailey. But he would not confess to the crime. Aiden Fucci didn't actually lead police to Tristyn Bailey's body. It was in fact a jogger that found her body near a retention pond in the cul-de-sac. And after the body of Tristyn Bailey was found and examined, police realized that this was a vicious crime. There was an upward of over 100 stab wounds, many of them on her hands and her arms as she was trying to defend herself from her attacker. And although they didn't know if sexual assault occurred, they did find a handprint on her thigh that didn't belong to her. And the story only gets worse. Of course, Aiden Fucci has been arrested, and so has his mother for tampering with evidence, but people knew of his violent outbursts. Aiden Fucci's girlfriend would actually say that he wanted to kill somebody, and he talked about if he was going to do it, he was going to stab somebody in the woods. Oftentimes, Aiden would sneak up behind his girlfriend with a knife and terrify her. And in his notebook, they found drawings of violent things. Aiden was extremely violent, and he was a ticking time bomb. Really, he lacks any sort of empathy. When him and his friend were placed in the police car to be questioned, you can see the Snapchat video and Aiden making a joke of it.
Having fun. Cop car.
Yep. Tristyn.
What's up, guys?
Yep.
Tristyn, if you the damn...
When you see this in a month...
There's also video of Aiden acting strangely. He's acting like he doesn't know where he is and what's going on. He also says that he hears things. And in this video, we can see the sudden shift in Aiden from that boy on Snapchat who was making a joke of this disappearance to a boy who's now confused and hearing things and talking about demons and such.
What you got going on? Why am I here? I just want to talk to my mom and dad. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? I don't want to you demons. I don't want to let you demons take my soul. You demons want to take my soul away. I don't let you demons steal my soul.
Is it a ploy to get a lesser sentence? It might be. And although this case hasn't gone to trial yet, Aiden really does stand to be tried as an adult, and hopefully he will receive a life sentence for this crime. I do plan on keeping up with this story. So obviously, once the trial happens and all of that, I'll do another video update. That's it for today, guys. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this video or any other video on my channel, be sure to subscribe and turn on alerts so you never miss a video upload. See you next time.